WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out Amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. Here to keep you company while you shitpost about Valor points. Welcome to WoW Killer. I'm Garrett, here as always with Taliesin. Happy Wednesday, dude.
Hey, how we doing? On a Wednesday as well. Like, we don't always manage it, but here we are. And
I always do this show first thing in the morning, or I would say, happy BlizzConline Eve.
Ooh, because you're confident that we're not going to get this online until the day after we've recorded it.
I mean, also, this is just the episode that's happening the closest before.
This is like when they record like a Christmas episode of something in July, you know? And so you get your Christmas decorations up and your Christmas jumpers, and everyone has to pretend like it's Christmas and stuff, even though it's not.
I buy all my ugly sweaters in the dead of summer.
Yeah,
waiting,
exactly. I love Christmas episodes. One of my favorite things about any Christmas episode is knowing that they were filmed in the summer. It's fantastic.
Yeah, get out your fake snow.
I like watching people enjoying their Christmas and stuff and thinking, you're not enjoying this at all. It's not even Christmas. You're a liar.
Right now, they could shoot their Christmas episodes in Texas. It's so damn icy there. Yeah.
They could. If they could get any power for their cameras.
Yes, and all seriousness, if anyone is listening in Texas, I hope you're okay. It seems like you're dealing with a cold hurricane, considering how long some of you have been without power. But yeah, BlizzConline, right around the freaking corner, in the middle of also like a bunch of news about 9.0.5 that nobody seems to be happy about.
What are you talking about? No one seems to be happy about 9.0.5. Everyone's happy about it. Think about everything we're getting. We're getting a little patch before 9.1, and it's going to have, I don't know, some stuff in it, Valor points. It's going to have like some class tuning. Basically, all the stuff you'd expect to come with 9.1, which clearly isn't finished. All the stuff that they can do, you know, not the actual content, but just like kind of little tweaks and quality of life changes. They're just going to shove out the door early because 9.1 is clearly delayed. But I look forward to hearing about 9.1 tomorrow. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
wink,
Garrett.
Wink,
bit of stagecraft there. Bit of stagecraft. I look forward to hearing all about 9.1 tomorrow in BlizzConline, because that's when BlizzConline is. It's tomorrow.
I hadn't thought about this until just now. How god awful is the time at which BlizzConline is starting for you, Taliesin, over there in
It's
England?
Like 10:30 or something. It's not a problem at all. It's early enough that we can do like a watch party and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do.
Ah, cool. Cool. Well, that's sick. Yeah. I had 9.0.5. I don't have supremely strong opinions on. I'm also like BlizzConline is here basically, so I'm just waiting for those sweet juicy 9.1 deets.
Yes, exactly. And you know, you must have some thoughts on Valor points, though. Surely, you being a Wrath child, you being a Wrath man.
Yeah, they're not at all like they were in Wrath. So
what, you mean they weren't Mythic Plus exclusives in Wrath of the Lich King?
Mythic Plus didn't exist, and they were a currency. They were like a badge you would pick up in Wrath.
Wait, hang on. Mythic Plus didn't exist in Wrath of the Lich King. Well, how did you get your Great Vault?
I know this is going to shock you to hear, Taliesin, but things in the past were different.
Nah.
Some might even say that things in the past were better.
Some might say that.
Not
me, though. Do you know why? BFA and WoD both in the past.
Oh.
So
I got the dunk on BFA the other day on Twitter in a really great way.
Tell me. Oh, please. Tell me your excellent burn. Tell me your BF burn. Your burn FA.
I'm trying to remember the context of the setup, but I was talking about World of Warcraft, and then someone was like, what is there to learn from BFA? And my immediate, like within 5 seconds of them posting that reply to me, windmill slam reply was how not to make an MMO. Ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum.
Wow, that's harsh. Do you
I
like
mean,
WoW?
I was mostly just doing a bit. I had a
Oh,
lot of fun in BFA.
it was just a snappy return. I see.
Yeah,
I
it was,
see.
it was me just mostly just. I mean, I do think it's my second least favorite World of Warcraft experience, but I still had a good time with it because, as you and I have talked on the show multiple times, all WoW is good WoW, but on a scale, you're gonna like some WoW more than other WoW.
It's true. It's true. And I had a good time in BFA anyway. I had a good time. But I can acknowledge its many, many faults and that it wasn't one of the best expansions. Even
Yeah.
though much of it was some of the best stuff WoW has done.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
not all the
Back
most
to,
important stuff.
to
Anyway,
9,
screw that though,
9.0.5,
because
it's fine.
9.1 soon we will know all about 9.1, although probably not when it's actually going to arrive. We might get like a vague kind of sort of time frame, but I kind of feel like we're not actually going to know when 9.1 is coming.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about how much we loved the. It wasn't a roadmap because there wasn't a beautiful image for it, but at the BlizzCon post Legion's release, they got up on stage and basically told us everything, including we're going to Argus. You and I have both talked about how much we loved that. What I haven't asked you, Tally, is how realistic do you think it is to hope that they do that again?
Well,
here for Shadowlands,
it's already too late in a way. Don't forget that at this time in Legion's lifespan, we weren't going, oh, I wonder what's going to happen in 7.1. We were playing 7.1. Like the opening patch of Legion at this point had already been and gone. We were already onto 7.1. We'd already had the announcement about Argus and about 7.2. Like we already knew about like class mounts and the Broken Shore and things like that. We already knew that we were heading to Argus at some point in the expansion. We'd had all that within like weeks of Legion going live. So kind of Shadowlands' chance to pile on like the content and go, oh, there's this much content coming, it's coming, and here it is, and there's loads of it. I mean, they've already missed that boat. It's already too late for that. So they can never recreate the kind of the sheer visceral thrill of Legion's kind of just dump of like loads and loads of content all over our face that they dumped on our faces, Garrett. And usually that would be hideous. You go to the police, but in this case, it was like, yeah, it felt good.
It'd be so hideous. I don't want to keep riffing on that joke. But yeah, I mean, they could still. All right, so the speed at which, like the breakneck pace of which we would get a new patch and then also be told everything else that's coming next, that can't be recreated. But there's still so much unknown. Like they could still lay it out for us. They could give us a really detailed breakdown of what's coming in 0.1 and then be like, hey, also on 0.2 we're going to be heading in this direction, and in 0.3 this is where we're going to go. Yeah. Like there's no reason they still couldn't do that. My question to you is, do you think they will? Do you think there's any chance that we get a peek at kind of the entire arc of Shadowlands?
No, I don't think so. It feels like the way that they're doing it, they're really kind of... I mean, it's a different situation for a start, because Legion was, everyone knew who the Legion was. Everyone knew a lot about the history of the Legion. It had been kind of explored in Warcraft lore for like 10 years, over 10 years at that point. Everyone knew, as soon as they said, oh, we're going to Argus, everyone knew what that meant without any further elaboration or explanation. Shadowlands isn't like that. It's one of the good things about it, but it means they have to take a slightly different approach as well. So there isn't like an equivalent of Argus for Shadowlands, where there's this kind of lore touchstone that everyone knows and everyone's talked about for ages, and the idea of going there would be amazing and incredible. Like the whole point of Shadowlands is it's all completely new, and they're really leaning into the mystery of who are the first ones, and where do they come from, and what even is the Shadowlands really, and what is reality, and what does the jailer want to do, and things like that. So they don't really have the same kind of tools that they can use to get that same kind of hype that they did when they said we're going to Argus. So I find it very unlikely that will happen. There are things they can do. They can go, and who is going to be rocking up? maybe not in 9.1, but certainly in the future, and then, you know, show like a concept art of Arthas in like more armor or something like that, you know? Like that's the kind of equivalent that they could do. I guess, you know, like lean into one of the characters that we're very familiar with, or like show Anduin in more armor or something like that, or show like Sylvanas in chains or something, or like, you know what I mean? It would have to be like a character reveal rather than, you know, kind of a story. You know, do you know what I mean? It's gonna, if there is something like that, a big kind of, this is where the expansion's heading, that's going to be very character focused, I'd have thought.
The buzz is back and it's really bad. So anyways, Taliesin, as it is the week before BlizzCon, outside of 9.0.5, it's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet in World of Warcraft.
Well,
so
outside,
shall we...
like a patch sort of coming straight after BlizzConline, and the promise of a major patch being sort of announced and us filled in on that, it's quite quiet, yeah.
Well, outside of a major patch coming that we know nothing about, it is quiet. There's I mean, I realize that you're very used to making content out of absolutely nothing with World of Warcraft, but it's a little bit new to me. When we're over on the instance, we just don't even try, and we talk about things that aren't World of Warcraft. So, yeah. I mean, we can have this conversation. 9.0.5, exciting enough. Not that exciting, in my opinion.
Like no, listen. The worst thing about patches, like the things in 9.0.5 are fine, and we said this on the weekly reset. Okay, like everyone, you know. Okay, valor points, whether or not you think they're being done right, whatever. It's good that they're kind of getting introduced in some capacity for most people. Like the class tuning obviously needs to be done. There's other kind of quality of life things, stuff like more raid. There's more raid loot, which isn't part of the patch, but that's kind of getting introduced as well. There's various kind of like new models and things that are getting data mined for it as well. There's, I mean, Icy Veins this morning have come out and said that they've just found a cutscene, which is encrypted, which is coming with 9.0.5. But you know, they can't get into it, but it's called Memory of the Wrathgate, which sounds quite exciting. So it sounds like there's stuff there. The bad thing about patch 9.0.5 is that it exists, because it shouldn't exist, because it should be patch 9.1. And there's absolutely no way that they'd planned on a 9.0.5. Absolutely no way at all. This wasn't part of the plan
totally
at all.
with you there.
All of this stuff was definitely coming in 9.1, and they've kind of pushed it forward. And of course, what that means is there's going to be slightly less stuff in 9.1 as well, because we'll have had this quality of life stuff for 9.0.5. So it's kind of like a shit carousel. The shit goes round and it comes back again.
Well, as long as it's not just a selfie camera, I think it's going to be okay.
Well, yeah. Exactly. There's already more in 9.0.5 than there was in what was that 6.1. But this is the thing. So I mean, yeah, the 9.0.5 is fine in of itself. The bad thing is that it shouldn't exist, and it does. And the implication being that 9.1 isn't finished and isn't ready to go out.
Now you're making me planned. You're making me want to go to bat for the thing that I said was like, it's fine. It's not all. To me, it's not massive news, but I want to go to bat for it now, because you said the bad thing is that it exists, but at the same time, it's like, isn't this kind of what we wanted? Having a lot of us, and I certainly have been in this crowd, been a little critical of the fact that World of Warcraft takes a little too long to make quality of life improvements in their game, and they just seem to have this desire to wait for these massive, you know, patches that they can put a bow on and give us everything all at once.
Yeah, but that's not what this is, because if 9.0.5 is the stuff that is ready from 9.1 that isn't ready, then if 9.1 had been ready, all of this would be coming when 9.5 is 9.05 is. So
yeah, but like, I'm a realist, Taliesin. If we're not getting 9.1 anyway,
any earlier than they would have done if 9.1 had been ready on time.
But if we,
it's just the other stuff that is coming later.
We weren't going to get 9.1 anyway, though.
To me,
totally.
This is an upside.
It's nice that they're giving us
what
something.
I'm saying is, it's not really, you know, what they're bringing out the stuff in 9.0.5, I think, because 9.1 is late, rather than because they're going, hey, we don't really want to wait for a big patch to bring you this stuff. It's like, bullshit, you are absolutely going to wait for a big patch to bring us this stuff, but it's, you know, the big patch isn't ready, so...
Well, I guess I would, instead of calling bullshit, I would just go, You know, and I'm just glad you're doing it.
Yeah, well, no, me too.
Maybe.
Absolutely. And you know, it's great. And it gives a lot of time for iteration, especially when it comes to the class tuning and stuff like that, before 9.1 and the raid, which presumably is coming with 9.1 as well. You know, it gives that plenty of time to settle, which is good news. Definitely. But also sucks because it means it means this could be one of the longest opening patches in like WoW's history.
I mean, yeah, it's certainly feeling that way. I mean, where are you at personally? I mean, like,
Hey, well, listen, I think if there's got to be a longest opening patch in WoW's history, I think Shadowlands is better equipped to deal with it than a lot of expansions are, because I think there's plenty going on at Endgame. I think there's loads of really good stuff at Endgame in Shadowlands. Not all power progression, but some of that as well. I mean, we haven't actually finished the raid in our guild yet, but beyond that there's all the anima stuff, there's legendary crafting, there's twisting corridors if people really want to do that, and there's unlocking, like, I mean, who's unlocked all of them more? Who has Venari at max level, and you know, who's got all of the gem slots for their gear, and who's got like all their conduits from her and things like that. Some people, yeah, like high level players, but the vast majority of the player base haven't. And there's loads of stuff to be getting on with. You know, maxing out your covenant stuff, your sanctum stuff, getting all the transmogs that are available there, either just buying them with the anima or unlocking all the different parts of your kind of covenant specific weekly thing. You know, the Ember Court for the Venthyr and the good ones for all the other covenants. And like, you know, there's a lot to be getting on with there. Just not necessarily kind of power progression stuff, that's all. And there is the fact that there is new stuff getting unlocked by Renown every week as well, still, currently. Although I've got a feeling that will have run out by the time 9.1 comes along. But it's still there right now.
Yeah, I have that feeling as well. Yeah, I was just curious kind of like where you are personally, because like I'm a little bored at the moment. And no, I don't have everything. And everything you just said that there is to go do, I have that to go do. I'm just a little bored with doing it. I guess is the thing. Because remember how like I think by week 4 you were like, oh, I'm enjoying the Maw because I'm not doing it. I've hit that point. I have a lot of stuff still to do in the Maw, and I just don't want to do it. I'm like, I just don't care. I want Torghast to take half as much time as it currently does every week because I'm pretty well geared, and it still takes a while.
Like, I mean, I'm not very well. What's your item level out of interest, Garrett?
I think like if I have all my tanking gear on, which is what I'm doing Torghast in, I think it's just over 200 because you know, my better gear is for my damage specs.
Sure.
Trying to solo Torghast as a damage warrior is not a great time.
Yeah, I mean,
I was doing layer 8s,
and I feel severely undergeared on my main. So like the kind of quest to get the gear that I need is still my main driving force on my main. And I'm just kind of keeping my other 3 characters in the different covenants kind of ticking over. I'm vaguely up to date, although the catch up is so good that I don't have to militantly, you know, get there to Renown every week, because I know I can just wait to kill the world boss next week, and that'll be one instant catch up thing, and all sorts. I mean, I'm looking forward to starting the kind of the covenant weeklies when I can be bothered. I still look forward to logging in. Raid night tomorrow night, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, there's no doubt that I'm not playing it to the all-consuming extent that I was before. Having the Covenant campaigns wrapped up is a big thing about that, because once that storyline is wrapped up, there's obviously just a whole lot less to actually play every week. But also there's the psychological thing as well. Like, you know, psychologically the story is over, because they've stopped giving a story. So like when you do that, there's like a literal kind of stop in content, but there's a psychological thing as well where you go, okay, well, we are officially now waiting for the next patch, and like, yeah. So, but I wouldn't say I'm bored, but that's because I'm very, very good at playing WoW on my own terms. And
that's a good point.
Like,
that's fair. I'm glad you reminded me that like I haven't seen the Covenant stories of other Covenants, because like for me, I'm kind of just exploring like my personal thoughts. These aren't like major, like I want to go post on the forums angrily about it, like levels of disappointment or anything. But the like knowing being burnt out with Torghast is having this real big pause effect for me. Like, because like normally right now when I'm bored, I would go work on alts, but I know at the end of maxing out those alts, if I want to be decent, I need to go grind Torghast for Soul Ash to get legendaries on those alts. And I just don't want to. And it's really just throwing a big old like fire blanket on my burning desire to level my alts at the moment. But I haven't been thinking about the fact that I could at least, get 3 other, duders up and just, if I just focused on the Covenant, at least then I get to kind of fill in all these story gaps, which like I've spoiled myself. I know where they end, but getting to experience it yourself in game the way they wanted it to be told is its own draw.
And beyond that as well, because, just being part of a different Covenant and running around different Covenant Hall and seeing all the different characters and stuff, and, like their teleportation network and their stuff, and they've all got like little unique quirks and some things that other Covenants haven't got. That in itself is just really interesting and fun to me. And I would highly recommend it, because there's more to being like running an alt through a different Covenant than just the storyline as well. There's a whole lot more. It feels good. Like, even if you're going to do it on the same class, really, the differences are enough to make it fun. So like I enjoy that. The Torghast thing, I don't know, it's not such a problem since they made the layer unlocks account wide for me. So now when I have a character that hits 100, I assuming I can run through level 8 straight away. So it's only an extra kind of 40 minutes per character per week, to do those 2 wings a week. And like, you get enough for a level 1 legendary pretty much on your first week, or very early on in your second. So, and it's not much, like that's not like an hour's work. So it's not that much of a cock block for me. And I quite enjoy it as well, because it's a really good way of playing alts, right? Because when you're an alt, you're playing an alt, most of what you do is going around doing world quests or, killing world mobs and things like that, which don't take much killing. And then you go into a high Torghast, and suddenly you're using that alt's rotation in a way that you don't unless you're kind of raiding with it or going in dungeons with it, and kind of, using it in extended kind of bursts of damage and things, in a way that you don't just kind of doing day-to-day stuff with an alt. And I always find that quite satisfying as well. I'm not trying to convince you.
No.
It's perfectly reasonable to be absolutely horrified by the idea of doing Torghast or whatever, and like,
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but like we're on a podcast where like us talking to each other, whether we agree or not, is like kind of the whole point. So it's like, no, I find this fascinating. Like, and like I kind of said, like it's not. I'm not having like the strong negative reaction, but I am just having this personal feeling of like I know it's 30 to 40 minutes per run, and I got to do 2 of them a week for Torghast, and that's not that big of an ask, but I'm just kind of over it at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, and there's no alternative really. like there's just no alternative to get that currency if I want it, and I don't necessarily think there should be, which is just it's a unique thought, because I just go, yeah, I think it's okay that I'm feeling this. And I wouldn't expect it to be an alternative for Soul Ash. Yeah. But I think I'm just kind of hoping there's a Soul Ash catch-up mechanic in 9.1.
Oh, I mean, there 100% will be. What they'll do is they'll make other levels of legendary cost, like 10 times as much Soul Ash as, going from 1 to 2. It'll cost, like, to go from 4 to 5, it'll cost 10 times as much. But then you'll get 10 times as much. So, like, the catch up to get to level 4 for a legendary will be pretty much instant, and then you'll be on to the grind that everyone else is on 9.1. I mean, that's obviously what they'll do, and I think that's a pretty good way of doing it. And same with like Covenant stuff with Anima and what have you. But that's the thing, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to be bored or to not want to log in particularly, or beyond just doing your raiding and stuff like that. I think that's absolutely fine. I would say that's probably more of a reflection on the length of the patch rather than the quality of the patch. I think the stuff that's in the patch is excellent and really, really good. And, like, it's fine to be getting bored of it after this long, because it's been a really long patch. And that's why I keep saying scheduling is so important when it comes to an MMO, because like the content can be as good as you want, but if it has to last twice as long as a normal patch, then it has to be twice as good. And that's a bit unfair.
Especially for your weekly, daily players.
Yeah,
if you're logging
exactly,
every week, if you're logging in every day, those are the players where the schedule is excruciatingly important.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, well, I mean, that's a good point that someone's brought up in chat, is that also, like, these are unprecedented times, and a whole lot more of us have a whole lot more time to play WoW right now. So, it's possible that people have played through and burnt out on the content quicker in kind of terms of days, because they're fitting so much more into a day of WoW playing, whether on furlough or lockdown or whatever. And I think that's that's definitely true, because it's represented in Blizzard's earnings report, and you can see it in video game kind of metrics and stuff across the board. People are just playing more video games right now. They're putting more time into their favorite video games, and that's definitely a consideration too. But yeah, and that's why I say it would have been really important to have a Legion style deluge of content, because I think the opening patch of Shadowlands was, I mean, the best I can remember. I think it was better than Legion's. But Legion had already moved on by this point, so Legions didn't have to be as good to be better, as it were.
Yeah, it's really close for me. I might just put them at a tie if you had to make me make a call right now. But if
they're
close.
at a tie right now, then what's it going to be in 2 months' time when we get 9.1? Like, you'll have had that much more time to get bored of that. So,
well, I think that's you're drawing a smart line that I am inclined to agree with when you go, it's indicative of how much time we're stuck here, not the quality of what is here to play. It's just that we've been with it for too long, and I think that's a really good take. So you want to take some emails? You want to check in with
Is that what we're doing? Are we doing a mailbag? We definitely should have warned people about that.
No, we shouldn't have. That's terrible.
Episodes,
people
Garrett.
stop listening and they scurry like the rats on a sinking podcast ship when you say this whole episode is going to be
But think
emails.
about how much we'll have to talk about next week, Garrett. Think about how much we'll have to talk about then, and we'll be all like, oh, 9.1. Oh, I was expecting a bit more than just an extra 2 layers and Torghast, but here we are. Are you excited?
We'll see. I'm sure there'll be a shit show or two as well, Taliesin.
Sure.
Get ready for it. You may have preemptively named your most recent YouTube video a shit show special, when the shit show special may still to come.
Garrett, every episode is a shit show special in Weekly Reset land.
That's fair. But you usually find one. There might be like 7 for next week. You never know. We may have to do a shit show or two on this
shows. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to write in, be a part of the show, wowkillercast@gmail.com is where you can send those emails. And I thought we'd kick off with one that we've touched on in the past, but it seemed fitting for this week, because Adam H wrote in and said, ahoy! Adam H is apparently a pirate. And says, what are some of your favorite BlizzCon memories, either specific events or annual occurrences? Mine are seeing my brother, meeting the Guild, the web series, not bowling at a bowling alley. I wonder what meetup you went to, Adam, and discovering Tally is like 7 feet tall. Thanks for the show. So I would like to take this as a point to promote a past episode. On episode 17 of this show, the whole thing was us just like exchanging BlizzCon war stories. But since BlizzCon is a day, if you're getting this on the download,
yeah, that's right, Garrett. It's tomorrow.
Do you have a favorite like annual occurrence? Because I think on that episode we mostly focused on like our favorite memories like overall, and I think they were mostly like single occurrences at various BlizzCons. Do you have a favorite thing that happens every year at BlizzCon?
I do, but I'm gonna sound like a wanker. My favorite thing that happens every BlizzCon, that's happened every BlizzCon so far, so it's a very kind of like personal like routine, is that we get there and we arrive in Anaheim and we check into our hotel. It's always the Marriott. and we always get our room there, and we unpack. And then the first thing we always do when we get into Anaheim is we have dinner with Terran, Gregory, and Diva. And they always take us somewhere really nice. And it's always really great, and that's genuinely one of the things I look forward to the most, because we only see them like once or twice a year, and they're just good peoples, and we like them, and they're nice to hang out with, and it's just really good. And that's exactly what we need after like a 14-hour flight or whatever.
I have a remarkably similar annual tradition. Katie and I get there, we check into our hotel, and immediately go get Korean barbecue at the exact same Korean barbecue place with what is now nothing but ex-Hearthstone developers. None of them work on the game anymore, but yeah, we usually go and hang out with Ben Brode and Young Woo and get Korean barbecue. And it kind of just, we didn't go out of our way to make it a tradition, but it has definitely become a tradition because I think we've done it every year since 2014. So yeah,
that's awesome.
There's
some good Korean barbecue places around there as well. And like genuinely, most of my best memories about BlizzCon are eating and having food.
Yeah.
And like, because it's when you kind of hang out with people the most, really, because you know you're actually in the conference center itself, and there's stuff going on. There's like films showing, and there's like reveals, and there's, you know, hype, and there's esports, and there's, you know, people in cosplay, and it's amazing.
You're forgetting there's a DJ in the lobby.
Oh god, yeah, and you can't even hang
is
out in the bar of the Hilton anymore.
Far too loud.
That sucks. And yeah, God, that's my favorite BlizzCon activity, is complaining about the DJ in the Hilton.
That's my favorite so many BlizzCon activity when I'm not at BlizzCon. That's like,
I think, listen, you hear a lot of talk about the DJ at the Hilton, right? But I feel like a lot of people have really embraced that these days, because like when we first started going to BlizzCon, everyone, you know, the Hilton lobby would be empty because everyone hated the DJ so much. Last time we were there, people were rocking out, and they were there. People were making out. People were being sick on the floor. People were taking off their clothes. People were loving the DJ. It was incredible, and we were like, "Do you want to take off your clothes?" And basically, and everyone was like, "No thanks." And we're like, "Oh, okay, cool." But I mean,
I was checking all of those boxes. I was taking off my clothes and being sick on the floor. So that was just me. I checked all those boxes for you as you walked past to get to the escalator to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, so people are partying hard in the Hilton these days, but I hate that. Yeah. I
mean, and, yeah. After
I like going out and getting some foods, and all of the best times I have in BlizzCon are getting foods with people. And you know, either like small groups of people or large groups of people.
I mean, it usually means you're like actually connecting, right? Instead of like shouting at each other over whether it's a DJ or just the loudspeakers at BlizzCon itself.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love all that shit. So yeah, really exciting. It's
yeah. The first dinner we had last year was particularly hilarious because we were eating with Patrick Bejan. He was just so jet lagged. Like I had never seen Patrick just more like out of his element. He just so badly wanted to just go to sleep. And we were just like so happy to see him. We're like, Patrick, no, talk to us. We're so happy to see you, buddy. Let's eat and talk and be sociable. And he clearly just wanted a nap.
Yeah, I get that. I'm afraid to say that we're not always very good company at these kind of like dinnery meetups as a result. But they are like awesome for us to kind of see people in like a real life setting, you know. And we've got like this routine of our last morning before we grab our plane and go home. We go to the IHOP, and we have like a proper IHOP, because I love IHOP. I know Americans like it's some bullshit thing that you don't care about, but I love IHOP. I think it's like the best thing in the entire world. If we had an IHOP around the corner, I'd go there literally every day, and I'd die, but it would be amazing, and I'd die happy, very, very happy. And we always meet up with cool people in the IHOP. Like last year, just before we went home, we just met up with Peculiar from Wowhead, and we were just chilling out, like having a really nice time before we had to get on a plane and go home, and it just felt great. It just felt really, really great. And so yeah, eating is my favorite thing about BlizzCon. That's my favorite routine, eating. And like, we don't muck around, man. I don't go to those food stands, okay? Like, we set money aside and we like save up, and we're like, every meal we're gonna have in BlizzCon is gonna be a proper meal, because like so much BlizzCon is running around all over the place and like getting somewhere, and you know, you're like, oh, I have to get here for this panel, and then I have to run here and present the WoW Q&A. It's probably a problem you feel quite a lot, and then I have to go over here and do this, and like those moments where you can just sit down and have a meal, even if they're with huge groups of people, like just having a proper, like someone bringing you some food and just sitting down and eating, like that's kind of important, and we make sure that we do that.
I want to know what the hell you order at IHOP that you need to save up for.
Okay, IHOP isn't a great example because that's pretty cheap.
I know,
but like obviously,
like
when you're eating,
I just couldn't
kind of
just
you have your
you
breakfast
like,
in the hotel,
cool.
and then you go to usually the hotel for lunch, and then you usually go out somewhere for dinner. That's pretty expensive, especially since you just spent $2,000 on planes to get there. Again, not a problem you really have, but
that's mercifully not nearly that expensive for me to get out there, but yeah, that's it's still a big it's a big expense every year.
Yeah. Oh no. Something just went very wrong.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I can hear you again.
Oh no, it's fine. For some reason Discord just wanted to close, but it's back now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Delightful. It's back now. So
yeah.
We'll just well, Adam,
we'll just pretend that never happened. It's fine. I don't even know what you're talking about. I was talking about IHOP. Amazing.
Love
IHOP.
Boy, there's gonna be a lot of editing on my end on this Adam, thank you for your email, and apparently thank you for coming to the bowling alley meetup where we don't bowl. We usually just drink ourselves silly and exchange nerdy stories from BlizzCon. God, I miss it. I think that's why everyone has a fond. This is the only year where anyone has been speaking fondly about the Hilton DJ, is because after 2020, I think we all miss just like the ambiance that comes from because when you hear that, when you are deafened by the DJ, it means you're at BlizzCon. It means you're with your friends, and I think we all miss that right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like when people, I love BlizzCon anyway, but I feel like I love it extra much at the moment because I miss it so much. I just miss, like, people. It's like, do I miss BlizzCon, or do I miss just being able to go out and see people? It's that thing of, like, when people talk about vanilla and how much they miss vanilla, and you're like, okay, what do you miss? I don't doubt you. What do you miss about vanilla? Oh, I miss coming home from school and just chilling and having a hot pocket, and then talking about it in school the next day. It's like, sounds to me like you miss being 16 years old. Like, vanilla's part of that, but all the things you're talking about here, like, and not having to go to work and just play, it's like, yeah, it's being young that you miss, and that's perfectly fair. Like,
late last year, I went back to Classic for like a hot second, and it took me 40 minutes to find a healer for Sunken Temple. And I loved it because I made friends with the other 3 people that I was waiting with. But I realized it was like this really rare moment in 2020 where I had nothing better to do. I was caught up on freelance. All the podcasts for the week was posted. I had nothing else to do. And so I basically was 19 again, which is how old I was when I was, waiting that long for dungeons and actual vanilla. Like it's all intertwined. Like I miss that social experience because I had the time to dedicate to it, and I don't really have that time now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point. Anyways, moving right along. Ryan wrote in and says, "Howdy, boys. So I am of the opinion, which I am very certain Tally shares and pretty certain Garrett generally shares as well, that the rate at which you are able to target and acquire gear in Shadowlands is a very welcome change from BFA. Getting gear that is meaningful feels good. My question comes in with a trade-off we have to this new loot frequency in Shadowlands. I've been running Nathria with my guild since it opened, and to this date, I only have 4 normal Nathria pieces to my set and 2 on Heroic. I love the rate at which I can progress my stats, but it does feel like I am going to leave this tier without ever coming close to completing either the normal or Heroic Nathria sets, even though we run the raid each week. My whole guild is experiencing the same problem, so it doesn't seem like just my bad luck. What do y'all think? Is this something that could be fixed by a the appearances, not the gear itself, appearing elsewhere, be it world class mission tables, etc., or is this something that just doesn't need to be fixed at all, and we should be okay with the trade off? Any thoughts or opinions welcome. Thanks, Ryan, who clearly just wants to look nice in the game.
Hey man, if I was going after that Nathria plate set, which I mean I kind of vaguely am, but that's the best plate set in the game. I think it's so beautiful.
I mean, who doesn't want to look like a Castlevania boss?
So
like
good. I love it so much. It's like a cool old school plate set, but it's also got like a fur dressing gown over it. So good.
Yeah, and it also like, I think it looks really bad if you don't have the full set. Like,
oh yeah,
random
it's one of those,
pieces off of that set don't look good with anything else.
Yeah, and the
like,
best color tint of it is definitely the heroic as well. So you have to go through heroic to get that plate.
That's the red one, right?
No, the gray one. Space Wolf Gray.
Yeah, the gray one is good.
So good.
I'm pretty fond of the red as well, but I'm missing. I don't have a full set for any of them, so it doesn't matter because it looks bad.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm missing the same pieces across them, so it can't even mix like tints to like kind of pseudo complete the set. So yeah, I mean, like I love this because I feel like I'm the only person who really gets bent out of shape about this. But this is an issue I have experienced pretty much throughout WoW's entire existence. I just think it's a little more magnified because of the rarity of loot drops, which has recently been buffed. What was it as of last week, right?
Yeah. Well, as of this reset now. So as of
right.
today. As of Garrett. As of yesterday.
Yes, I ran through Heroic Nathria up to Sludge Fist last night, and I really noticed it when I got one piece of gear, and it was the same goddamn bracers I already have.
Well, last night, Wednesday night, was EU reset, you see. So when I went through stuff on my reset in the EU Wednesday, which was yesterday, I think it was Christmas as well, I benefited from the enhanced loot drops then. Yeah.
God, we have had better running gags on the show.
No, we haven't. The sad thing is, Garrett, we really haven't.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty fond of the dick hungry chicken, and so are other people, because I still see it mentioned.
Your fondness for the dick hungry chicken is well known, Garrett. But I thought we were talking about in jokes.
Oh,
so I do. The writer of the question is spot on. I do agree that I like the. Okay, so flat out, if you had to compare the two extremes, which would be the rate of loot acquisition in Shadowlands, which it does feel like one end of an extreme, and compare that to the other end of the extreme, which would be BFA. Where it was, well known and well off discussed as a loot pinata, and you're just getting so much gear all the time that it was pretty much meaningless and didn't mean anything. Like, out of the two extremes, I much prefer the Shadowlands version, and I much prefer like the slower level of gearing. I think there are things in Shadowlands which are designed to mitigate it. There are other ways that you can save up for specific gear in like the legendary crafting. There is PvP, and I enjoy having to go into PvP for certain things at the moment. Whether or not I'll feel like that for the entire expansion, kind of irrelevant, because I like it right now. And I've always said that I understand people who aren't so keen on it. Particularly if they've got less time to play and things like that, because it is kind of a bit of a time commitment to get all the gear that you want, even though it's like more than possible, especially combined with the lack of master loot, which I still think is a problem. I'd still have master loot back tomorrow. I know and appreciate all the reasons why they took master loot out of the game, and I think overall I like not having it in the game, but I think in this situation where we don't have much loot dropping, that would be a really good mitigation, would be to have like master loot back. I think, like I've said on this show, I said on my stream, I think a lot of the kind of complaints about it could essentially be smoothed over just by having one extra piece of loot that drops per 5 people in raid, which is exactly what they've done. So we'll wait and see how right I was about that or not. And so I'm super pleased with that. Like I'm really glad about the extra piece of loot in Nathria, because that's what I thought. I thought that would be enough. So we'll see if it is. And I think they should do it for Mythic Plus as well. I think just one extra piece of loot in the chest at the end. because I always thought people didn't care about that loot. I thought people didn't care in the slightest about the loot in the chest at the end of a Mythic Plus, because I thought we were running Mythic Plus just for the weekly chest at the end. But apparently not. People like really value that loot at the moment, probably because of the scarcity of loot in general in Shadowlands.
Yeah, I think that's it's all connected, right? Like it's all, there's an overall feeling of the frequency of loot, and when it's low, and you're going to notice that, I think, more being missing at the end of a Mythic run. And also because like the chest at the end has been wrapped up into this overarching now system with the vault.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel as unique to Mythic, even though Mythic has its own track on there.
True. Yeah.
It still kind of feels a little homogenized, and I don't want that to seem negative, because I love the vault. I really do. Even though I've gotten to the point where it's screwing me weekly. But that's just because I'm pretty well geared, with the exception of my god awful effing weapons, and I'm a warrior, so it's really noticeable that my weapons still suck.
It's a really good example of game design, and how a game makes you feel being as important or more important than how a game actually works. Because it's very true that the reason that there's more emphasis placed on the vault gear from Mythic Plus than there is the vault gear from Raid or PvP is very obvious. It's because like Mythic Plus has a vast loot table to choose from. Like it's there's just more loot that you can get the choices from in Mythic Plus than there is in Nathria or PvP. So that's why there's the emphasis on the weekly chest more so than there is in Nathria or PvP. And like from a game design point of view and from a maths point of view, it's solid. But as a player and how it makes you feel, you run any other type of content, you run Nathria, you run PvP, and the gear that you're getting, the stuff you want is dropping instantly. You kill the boss, and there is or there isn't loot there, and the loot that drops is the gear that you want. And same with PvP. Like, you've saved up your conquest, and you get the gear that you want straight away. It's like this instantaneous thing. Whereas Mythic Plus, you finish a high key, and you're still waiting until the end of the week. You're still waiting until the reset to get that choice of gear that you would want from that loot table. And it doesn't feel as good. It feels, you're like, well, I run all these other things for the vault, and yeah, every boss that I kill in Nathria helps my vault, but I'm also getting the chance at loot in the moment as well, which is just as high level, and that's not happening in Mythic Plus. So yeah, it's a nice, it's interesting example of how maybe that part of the game fails in making you feel like it's worthwhile, even though mathematically it might be, and like the difference that can make. So I feel like maybe just putting an extra bit of loot at the end, maybe upping that item level a tiny bit. Who knows? I'm not.
Are you a vanity player? Are you kind of feeling what Ryan's feeling here with your lack of matching outfits?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, I can always go back next expansion and get all the sets I want. Like,
that is true. Yeah, that's how it's always felt to me, and I'm just kind of curious. It's a minor thing, but it is something I do always notice, and I'm just like, boy, just once.
Yeah,
just once. I think I'd like to have a full set during its current content.
Yeah, well, exactly, and I've always had a full set during current content before. I'd be very surprised if it happens this time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's weird, but it's not a massive deal for me. And like, it's part of the achievement for me is having that matching set of raid gear and having the complete set of raid gear. It's part of the process. It's part of what makes me feel good, is that I have done enough to get that, and that is still possible. It's weird because we haven't even killed Denathrius yet, so like
yeah, I have a weird memory of Wrath of Lich King never having matching boots. Is like is how I remember that they're like as a paladin, because we had Valor badges, and you could usually, I think boots were like always a Valor item, but they were always the warrior look. And and you had like certain boots for certain sets were just like on certain difficulties of the raid. There wasn't a version of it at every difficulty. So it's like, oh, if I want my matching paladin boots at a TOC, I have to go to the next level up, and our group is just running normal. It's just like I just never had matching boots.
That sucks. That happened in Legion to a certain extent as well. Like the boots for every transmog in Legion only dropped from one boss, but they dropped from like some world boss as well. So there were two ways to get the boot appearance. But only one way in raid, and I wasn't killing world bosses. I was like, come on, man, absolutely no way. So yeah, a lot of my sets from Legion don't have the shoes, unfortunately. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing a belt from one as well. Oh man.
Well, now just go back and solo some world bosses. What are you doing, man? Get in there. All right. Thanks for your email, Ryan. Star Augur writes in and says, hello, Garrett and Tally. I am interested in your perspectives on the amount of mystery in current WoW. For me, there is so much unknown or unresolved that is more frustrating than anything else. There are the more benign mysteries, like the Dreadlord report and infiltrating all the cosmic forces, or what caused the Light's attack on Revendreth. These are interesting and likely foreshadow the larger story. Also gives a shout out in parentheticals here, Taliesin, to the intergalactic cosmic disco war that you're a fan of mentioning. Then goes on to say, then there is a category of questions that seem more relevant, but still not the most important. What is the red bolt that hit the Arbiter? Who is the Winter Queen sister? Why does it matter? What is going on with the brokers in general and Venari in particular? How much of a concern do the Devourers truly represent? And are they Shadowlands backdrop or the more significant to the larger cosmos? What happened to the Primus and why is he the Rune Carver? That's great. There are the really big mysteries like the Jailer's backstory and the entire Night Warrior storyline. These seem very significant, but also the most understandable to not have answers for just yet. Most frustrating of all, in Star Augur's wording, is Sylvanas. We still do not really understand her motivations, even with the cinematics. All Blizzard needed to do was let her finish the sentence, quote, we can't even choose who we. But instead, they chose yet another mystery, preventing us from understanding some of the why behind a character that has been portrayed pretty inconsistently for many years now. I do not mean to suggest there should be no mystery or that all answers must get provided in short order, but it does feel like questions are piling up even as more are introduced, and then resolutions we do get often seem inconsequential. The example here being the Druss storyline in Ardenweald. The question to answer ratio just seems skewed, and there might be a better balance. Or maybe I'm in the minority for not enjoying how much we don't know. What do you think? Science Star Augur.
So, I love having mysteries in the game, and I find that the ones that we've got in Shadowlands are particularly awesome. And they're awesome because the expansion is set up in a way that you would assume, like, the reason they're even asking these questions is so they can answer them. Because why else would you be asking these questions, right? It's like, here is the Shadowlands. Oh, did you know the Shadowlands was formed by the first ones? And you're like, well, who are the first ones? And Danusa's like, who are the who? And you're like, oh, Danusa! So, like, I mean, that's a question which is set up specifically for asking, right? And the whole, oh, the jailer wants to break the machine of death and wants to kill everyone. Well, why does he want to do that, Danusa? And you're like, well, cool. Well, presumably we're gonna learn the answers to that, right? And when we do get the answers, then that's going to be really awesome and really good, as long as we do. Now, an example of mystery being used in WoW that didn't work very well, I think, is most of BFA. And like, whereas I thought that the BFA kind of story delivery and just the way and the different forms that they delivered story was, the best they've ever done in many ways, the actual pacing of that story and the way they handled their reveals was incredibly bad. And I think the team kind of acknowledged this as well. And an amazing example of that is the whole N'Zoth thing, but particularly with the mini raid going into then Eternal Palace and N'Zoth supposedly being free. Because it was that thing of you know what okay, so we're going to a mini raid and it seems to be like inside N'Zoth, and there's definitely some N'Zoth stuff going on, and we're hearing N'Zoth's voice, but no one really talked about that at all, and in game, and it didn't seem to mean much, and it was like, so I don't understand, is N'Zoth back now or isn't he? Do we realize that he's part of this now, or do we not realize that he's a part of this now? Because he clearly is a part of this now, but in the story terms, do we understand that he's a part of this now? Like, that's really important, and that hasn't been made clear in the slightest. And then at the end of Eternal Palace, when N'Zoth was set free, right? You know, a part of Ashara's plan was to use the power from the heart of Azeroth and harness it to release N'Zoth's chains and things like that. That was the whole plan. That's why we were there, right? And I kind of got that. Fine, I understood that. That's good. I can understand that we've been played and she's using our power against us, etc., etc. And then at the end, like, for N'Zoth's big return, a big eye opened up, and then like some smoke came along and it took her, and then she was gone, and then he said all eyes will be open, and then it was like, okay, is N'Zoth back now or what? I mean, like, are we scared or what's happening? I don't know. Is N'Zoth officially back now, as in, are we going to be fighting N'Zoth now, or is it like a very strong implication that N'Zoth is on his way back? And like, that kind of lack of clarity spoils the mystery, because, you know, when you don't get a proper kind of, you know, all it needed was for N'Zoth to more explicitly be like, I am back, you're in fucking trouble, boys. Like, that's what it needed to be. You know, it needed to be like, boom, it's N'Zoth. And then, like it was with Argus, it was like, boom, it's Argus. And N'Zoth needs that same kind of entrance. And then you'd accept anything that happens next. And you'd be like, brilliant, because you're not wondering about it. You'd be like, oh shit, have you seen the end of Castle Nathria, of Eternal Palace? N'Zoth is back. But no one was saying that. Everyone was like, is N'Zoth back? I think N'Zoth is back. Pretty sure 8.3 will be N'Zoth themed, but I mean, I don't really know how or why or what's going on. I think we freed him, but then it looked like we didn't really free him because he's just smoke now. I don't really know. And Ashara, I don't know. Could be, maybe. I guess so.
That's my favorite subplot in Harry Potter is after Dumbledore sees the resurrected Voldemort, he goes, okay, well, back to my tiff with the Minister of Magic.
Yeah. Well, and also people talk about how unsatisfying N'Zoth appearing for a patch and then disappearing was. Didn't have to be at all. It could have easily have worked. Because like they've been hinting at N'Zoth coming back since Legion, like explicitly, and like all the way through BFA, there were very strong kind of N'Zoth threads. Like the whole of Stormsong Valley, you know, is N'Zoth and stuff like that. There's no reason why having that patch should have felt unsatisfactory. There's like, because, and it was that kind of insistence on keeping something a mystery, even though it was very clear, muddied the waters. Like we all knew all this stuff was N'Zoth, right? But that, like, Blizzard's kind of insistence on being coy about it and then kind of trying to maintain this mystery, even in the face of very explicit kind of story threads that were clearly leading to something.
Yeah.
It muddied the waters because, and it made every reveal unsatisfactory. And like, if you're going to have a mystery, the reveals have to be satisfactory. This is why Sherlock is such a terrible TV show, is because like it puts all this time into mysteries which it then doesn't explain, and like, or they get explained off camera, and like BFA is Sherlock. And it did a lot of very intriguing mysteries, which it kind of answered, but didn't, and it didn't give any satisfaction in the reveals. And all Shadowlands has to do, it can have as many mysteries as it like, and I like the mysteries, and I find them really fun. But don't be a fucking Sherlock about it, Shadowlands. Show us.
You know,
when Sherlock jumps off a building and he's dead, and then he comes back to life, show us how. Don't laugh at us for asking.
You know, I think last time you invoked Sherlock, I went to bat for it. I'm with you on this one because, as you know, the thing I'm grumpiest about with WoW is they were just like, but why would someone spoon Teldrassil? And we just sat on that and like theoried on it for like half a year, and then it came out and they were like,
oh, sorry, we've had a Whoops. Sorry. Garrett disappeared and then I hung up on him. But I'll call him again now. All is well. Garrett, you're back.
Hey, Zoom next week.
Discord just decided to just shut then. Sorry. Can't be helped. I didn't press anything. My hands were up here.
I believe you. I'm like just no longer trusting Discord because it's just been giving us hell like for a month now. Anyways, what I was going to say,
you were agreeing with me about what a terrible TV show Sherlock is.
So I like the Sherlock show, but I don't disagree with you that the mysteries are not the best part about that. And I kind of agree. I'm talking in generalizations here. I think there's some good mysteries in WoW, but overall, so instead of focusing on like being annoyed about the N'Zoth bit or being annoyed that they're being coy about why Sylvanas burnt Teldrassil and it was excruciatingly, straightforward once we actually got there. I'm going to focus on what I do like in WoW, which is I think when they are straightforward, when they just kind of go in a straight line from epic set piece to epic set piece, it works really well. And I'm going to tie it into you invoke Sherlock, and I'm going to say my favorite thing about the Sherlock show that you're referencing, which is the BBC Sherlock show, is really I just like watching Benedict Cumberbatch interact with Martin Freeman. They're just fun actors with fun characters, and I actually kind of enjoy the witty dialogue between them. It's pretty much the reason I watch any rendition of Sherlock ever. I just like those characters and I like watching them interact. And World of Warcraft is the same way. I kind of like them to just kind of do a straight A to B on their epic set pieces because I'm already here for the characters. I like their Avenger team ups. I like it when my favorite characters butt heads or realize that they have common ground. That's what I personally really come to World of Warcraft for. And that isn't to say that there aren't mysteries that I enjoy, but I think about Legion, which is just where I was just so freaking satisfied with World of Warcraft story. And the big tentpole moments, they were just so straightforward and face value. It's just like, we have to kill Gul'dan. We did. Well, a portal opened to Argus now. Guess we got to deal with that. And it just works. It just works because this game is on just such a big scale, kind of by its nature, because of how many people are playing this. We can't really have these small, tiny, intimate character moments, even though they do, and they happen a lot. And they've been getting a lot better, I think, with them in questing, but they're these kind of little sides. We get these vignette stories, and that's where we got to get to kind of explore those personal takes, right? But on the main arc of expansions, boy, do I like it when it's a lot more straightforward. And I think that's true of a lot of the expansions that really live well and stick with me in my mind. And Wrath of Lich King, pretty straightforward. Mists of Pandaria actually had some mysteries, but again, still kind of like hit its A to B to C marks. And I think the same is true for Legion. So just tell your Lord of the Rings and get weird and get technical with your character interactions.
So, like, to bring it back to the question, I am totally in favor of the mysteries that Shadowlands is setting up. I think that's like engaging and interesting. Like, I want to know who the jailer is. I want to know what his plan is. I want to know like who the first ones are. I want to know like what the whole situation with the Shadowlands is and how it relates to the other parts of the cosmos and things like that. I want to know where Arthas is. I want to know what the Drust are up to. I want to know what the Brokers are up to. I'm engaged with all of these stories. I want to go and like bring Vyraz to his knees and be like, yeah, get out of the House of Chosen, Vyraz, dick. Like, all of this stuff is really good setup, and I think the first patch of an expansion is absolutely the time to be doing that setup. And yeah, as long as they stick to the Legion style of story fulfillment, which is like straight up giving us some answers every now and then, and like a resolution to certain things, and that feels good. That's not what they did in BFA, because even in like the big denouements, even in like the grand set pieces and stuff, like Sao Fang fighting with Sylvanas, it was like, okay, so we've had kind of a resolution to Sao Fang here, but no one is any the wiser about what's happening with Sylvanas. And it needed both. It needed like something more. And I like to think that they know that now. And you'd hope that they'll be a lot more straightforward with the way they answer their questions in Shadowlands. Like, the signs are very promising. Like, the whole setup to Shadowlands is a lot more straightforward on its face than BFA. I know who the baddie is right now, which is something I didn't really know in BFA. Although we always knew that the final boss was going to be N'Zoth, but there was so much beating around the bush and so much like cock blocking and coyness and like, you know, yeah. As long as they're not Sherlock about it, I'll be absolutely fine. That'll be fine.
They were trying something different. I don't think it really.
And I've said many times, like, I'm not going to criticize BFA for trying something different. Like, I can criticize it for not succeeding, but I would never criticize the effort to do something different with their story. And in many ways, it worked extremely well. But yeah, I hope to see those mistakes not repeated in Shadowlands storytelling, certainly. I think another problem, if I may, another slight problem that we have with this kind of thing, and I love Star Augur, they're awesome. They are on my stream a lot, and they always have intelligent things to say. But I think this is quite a good example of this, is quite a lot of the time, we as an audience are absolutely terrible at picking up narrative cues that are quite explicit. Like, we talk a lot about the Shakespearean nature of character and storytelling in World of Warcraft, in that if someone says they are feeling sad in Shakespeare, they are feeling sad. You know, they kind of express themselves in the moment. And like, if someone says they are feeling sad in WoW, they are feeling sad. They're almost never lying to you. If someone like comes out and shows you that they're a baddie, they're almost certainly a baddie. Same, like, likewise with Shakespeare and World of Warcraft. That is literally the only thing that those two things have in common, by the way. But like, it is kind of worth thinking about. And I feel like a lot of the time we insist on asking questions where there shouldn't be any. You know, like, a lot of the time, and we do this in the speculation community all the time, we are like, oh, what does this mean? And it's like, the game has just told you what it means. Like, the game has just shown you what's happening here. And like, it's not helpful if you're asking questions that clearly don't need to be asked, and then you come back like an expansion, like a patch later, and go, so what did happen with that thing? And it was like, the thing that they showed you happened with that thing, dude. Like, that's what happened. And I feel like this happens a lot when it comes to talking about Argus and stuff like that. It's like, oh, so, you know, Argus, is it dead? Or is it like, they showed us what happened with Argus. It died. Argus is gone now. It's gone to Titan Heaven. Like, shut up. Ignore that. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. It's fine. Like, Blizzard will tell us when Argus is relevant again. You know, like, they've told us explicitly, like, when the star disappears in the sky, start worrying because the Pantheon's coming back or whatever. Argus is coming back. And like, they've told us and they've shown us really explicitly in game. And like, stuff like, oh, who is the Winter Queen's sister that she refers to? It's Ionar. It's obviously Ionar. Everything is in the game telling you it's Ionar. Now, the question is, why and how are they like, you know, that's the interesting question. The question isn't who is the Winter Queen's sister? Like, and stuff like that, and like talking about like the bolt that hits and being so convinced that the arbiter is a baddie that you have to kind of ask all these questions that don't need to be asked. Like, it's like, okay, so the arbiter's a baddie, so why does this make sense? It's like, it doesn't, because the arbiter isn't a baddie. Like, the Winter Queen isn't a baddie. Okay, it's fine. Like, don't need to ask those questions right now because you're making yourself misunderstand the question. You're making yourself misunderstand the story, and you're making yourself like confused, and it's not the story that's doing that. The story is giving you the answers, and the story is telling you, at the very least, the story is telling you what you should think is real. And if they want to like undermine it later on and go, aha, only joking, Ionar isn't the Winter Queen's sister after all, that's fine. But right now, clearly, they want you to think it is. And like, there is the answer to your question. It's Ionar. And we've had this all the way through since Legion and up until since the story has started being more important. And yeah, it's as someone who like has spent his career kind of studying narrative forms and telling stories, it's infuriating to me, like, people's lack of literacy when it comes to understanding very obvious narrative cues. And yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you.
It is clearly a passionate topic for you, sir.
It is, because like, you know, there are things which are mysteries, and there are things that like the story is showing you, and not just showing you, but in most cases showing you really well. Like, you can look at any number of cinematics and things that people tried to draw mysteries out of and then got disappointed when those mysteries weren't answered later on because the answer was in the cinematic or the answer was in the thing that the game showed you in the first place. And it's only people not wanting to accept that led to them having a feeling that their questions weren't answered. It's like, well, why were you even asking those questions? They showed you the thing.
Well, Taliesin, I think we can just take comfort in all in unison just blaming J.J. Abrams. It's his fault. It's his fault. If it wasn't for Lost, and if it wasn't for that first Star Wars sequel clearly not having a plan of where it was going past its end credits, I don't think we would all be there.
If you watched Lost and you didn't think that was going to be the case with the new Star Wars movie, then you weren't paying attention. Like, if you watched the first season of Lost and you came out of that thinking, yeah, Abrams definitely has a plan for the ending of this show, then you're an idiot. Like, then you don't know how to watch TV shows. If you came out of the first season of Lost thinking anything other than, oh shit, Abrams hasn't got a clue where this show is going.
I think we just, there's a subculture in nerddom of wanting there to be mystery and the experience being theories on Reddits and forums and talking to your friends. And that's fun and that's fine. Just know that you might be setting yourself up for disappointment because you may come up with something that you really like and is just so far off base and never going to happen in the actual fiction that you're theorizing about, that you're going to just, you're teeing yourself up for disappointment. Yeah. You're teeing yourself up for Rise of Skywalker, and nobody wants that. So
no, I can't think of any situation where I'd want that.
No, and that's what I did to myself with the burning of Teldrassil. In my defense, because they told me why. They asked me why, and I go, well, why? Why would she? Why would she? Because they asked me why. They literally got up on stage and asked me why. So I started asking myself why, and then we got there, and it didn't matter. But
well, like surely, but okay. So here's the thing, right? We're not having our Sylvanas episode now because we've got to keep that on the constant back burner. That's got to be the threat that hangs over this show forever. Like if the audience misbehaves, then we're doing the Sylvanas episode. But I mean, isn't she doesn't give a shit enough of a reason? Like, isn't that an answer to the question? And isn't it like, isn't that telling you something? Like when they say, why did Sylvanas do it? And you're like, oh, well, maybe it was the old gods and they tricked, or maybe it was the alliance, they accidentally set fire to it themselves or something like that. Isn't like, and all of those are answers apparently, but Sylvanas just being a wrong-un, that's not an answer.
I mean, it is. It's just that, like, if you tee it up as a mystery, I expect it to not be just so straightforward. Is the thing.
At least you got an answer. At least it didn't go, well, I guess we'll never know how Sherlock survived the fall from the building.
That's that's fair. But then that starts to get into the whole conversation, I think, of the unconnected nature of BFA, because there was also like a lot of us were just assuming N'Zoth was going to be there even before we got to the expansion, and so we started connecting them because we expected the story to be connected.
Yeah,
and I don't want to retread that because we just tread down that path, but I think it plays into that. But yeah, I don't think Staraugur is like off base here. It's like, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I think Staraugur, I think honestly, you're doing a really good job of kind of categorizing them. Like you mentioned, as you in your own words, benign mysteries like what's going on with the Dreadlords, and that's like it's a foot.
Love that shit. That's my favorite thing in the expansion right now. Like,
yeah, but like stuff. Even if we get our answer and it's not all that interesting, it's like, well, it was a small like little mini mystery mixed in among much larger ones that I'm certain we'll get answers to the Winter Queen sister. I'm sure we'll get answers as to the jailer's backstory. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm not worried about. And so like the other mini mysteries like the Dreadlords and whatnot that you mentioned in here, it's fine. It's fine if like they kind of wander away from the Dreadlords and kind of forget about it. I'm like, well, there's enough things here to pursue. So yeah, I don't know. I think Staraugur's head is in the right place here.
Oh yeah, I think it's a perfectly valid question to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and totally Staraugur. I'm with you on the Druss thing because like I got to the end of the Night Fae order hall. I was like, this is probably the most boring thing that happened in here.
Yeah, it's the like the Night Fae Covenant campaign is such a hot mess of like wonderful ingredients. Like the first chapter, or chapter 3, but the first proper chapter is like it's Tyrande and the Night Warrior and stuff, and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then
actually, before it even kicks off, you yourself are catching Ysera up on all the bowls.
Yeah, exactly. All of that stuff. Oh my god, yeah, you've had Ysera get reborn. You've had, like, I mean, technically part of that is you know, like all the Winter Queen and sister stuff, and then like you have that, and then you get introduced to oh no, then you go and do stuff for Bronze Sandy in the other side, and you're like, wow, this is something I didn't know existed. This is so cool. And then you meet like the other Night Warriors, and you do stuff for them, quite boring stuff for them, but like the setup and who they are is really interesting. And then there's some Drust stuff, and then like you go and find Huln High Mountain, and you go hunting with Huln High Mountain for a Devourer. So you've got a Devourer shit going on, and then you tell him to go and find other Night Warriors, and he's like, I will, and you know, you're very aware it's the penultimate chapter of the campaign. Next week is the last chapter of the campaign, right? And you say to Huln High Mountain, you say, can you go out and find me more souls of Night Warriors, please? Because we've got this really important thing we need to do for the story. And Huln High Mountain is like, yeah, you asked the right guy. I'm going to go out and find you more Night Warriors. And off he goes at the end of the penultimate chapter of the Covenant campaign. And you're thinking, woo, I wonder how long this search is going to take. My money is on precisely a week before he comes back with some solid names for some other Night Warrior souls that I can go and like get on board. And then you get to chapter 9, you get to the final chapter, a week after, to the day that you sent Huln High Mountain off on a quest to find the Night Warriors, the other Night Warriors that exist out there. And you see the question mark appear for the last chapter, by the way, the last chapter of the Covenant campaign, the current Covenant campaign. You're like, oh, here we go. I wonder where Huln is. I wonder what he's found. And you go off to him, and you're like, so where's my quest? And the guy goes, oh, the Drust are causing nonsense down in the east. And you're like, fuck off, mate. What?
That's exact. I was just like, huh? What? We were still on this Drust bullshit? Like,
it's like, I haven't heard about the Drust for ages. What are you talking about? Where's the night?
I did just say I like my WoW when it's straightforward, and that's about as straightforward as it gets. Like, there is a bad guy at our borders, and we must kill them. But actually, in kind of the way that the campaign went, it's not straightforward because
there were so many different threads, so many threads in the Night Fae Covenant campaign, so many, and they could have picked they could have picked any one of those threads, and it would have been better than the one they went with. They went with the least interesting thread. Now there is a really interesting character death in that chapter, which is really fun. But like otherwise, it's a bit of a letdown, really. It's not.
Yeah, I really don't remember much of it other than brown ground. I just spent a lot of time in the dead areas fighting the same enemies that I fought while I was leveling through there.
Nothing against the Drust. The Drust are fine, but why couldn't we have and the last chapter was called Drust and Ashes, so you could see that well in advance, and you knew the Drust were going to be involved. But why couldn't Huln High Mountain have been like, oh, I found one of the Night Warrior souls, but unfortunately they've been captured by the Drust who are in this zone, and you'd be like, oh, right, cool. Now I've got a reason to go and kick the ass of the Drust, right?
Or Taliesin, you're surrounded. You're surrounded by the Drust. You're about to die. You and all your fairy buddies are about to meet your untimely end. And then Huln appears on the crest of the hill. A horn blows. A spear is thrown. And Huln
1,000 Night Warriors
with the other Night Warriors, a la Gandalf at the end of Two Towers, a la Riders of Rohan, or the ghosts at the end of Return of the King. You pick your Lord of the Rings analogy. It's it's so I think with Starhugger, what you have elicited in us is realizing how much we don't like it when things are disjointed. That's where we ended up here. That's where we ended up here. But
so I don't know where Huln is. Basically, he's taking his sweet ass time. Put it that way. I was like, Huln, this was a week job. This was a week-long job. Where are you, Huln?
So Huln didn't update his TomTom. Because his add-ons are out of date, so he took a left when he was supposed to take a right.
He's useless. He's probably been skewered by some rock somewhere. He's probably been kebabbed again.
I think he's accidentally lost in Revendreth waiting on some goddamn elevator.
He's probably just run into some cave without even thinking, just like he did in Legion. And I'm like, no, Huln, don't do it. He's been kebabbed.
Instead of yelling Leroy Jenkins, we really should just start yelling Huln High Mountain when we charge in without thinking. That's what we should do.
Oh, I hope he's not kebabbed. That was very upsetting.
All right. Let's end on a short question, shall we? All right. Nalu on Dalaran writes in and says, "Hey Garrett and Taliesin, quick question for your pre-con episode. Should I switch to the meta covenant for my class this close to announcements about 9.1?" No!
No.
You know the answer. You let us in with this. You this close to 9 point. You know what my answer was going to be. You know I'm going to caution you against this. What are you doing? You're about to get a ton of information. Who knows how things could change in 9.1?
Yes.
They could come out and say in 9.1, if you switch covenants, we will send you $1,000.
I don't think they're going to. That's my BlizzConline prediction. They won't say that.
Right now, we don't know. I'm gonna come up with really great theories about what could be in 9.1, so that when they actually detail it, my awesome theories are not in there. I have a reason to go to the forums and complain.
True dat. I listen. This is a very specific question because I mean, presumably you chose that covenant for a reason other than it being your meta covenant, right? So for you, it is meta because you liked the transmog, or you liked the lore and just the feel of it. And you know, you've already blown it this patch. No one's going to take you like anyway. You're already behind on gear and stuff. You're not meta. Wait until next patch. See how it goes. There'll undoubtedly be like even more renowned catch up like in 9.1 as well. So you're making your own life easier if you wait until 9.1 to switch covenants at this stage, I think. Apart from anything, like even ignoring the way that quite a few covenant things are going to get changed for 9.1, you'd think. Yeah, no, it's a no. It's a big no. Big fat no.
I would assume so. Yeah, at this point, you know, you sent it in for the pre-con episode, so I know, like, I could have noted when this was dated and when you sent it in, but like without that, I know it was made for this episode. We're 2 days away of recording, 1 day away if you got this on download. Like, it is around the freaking corner. Don't be patient at this point. Normally, any other day of the year, I'd be like, do what you want. The world is your oyster. I don't want to tell you how to play. This close to BlizzCon, I would say, yeah, maybe exercise a little bit of patience and see what you're about to get yourself into.
I tell you what, Garrett, I really hope they tell us something interesting.
At BlizzCon?
Like, that Warcraft What's Next panel is only half an hour long. I hope there's something to talk about. I hope they give us what we want, as in just like a clear kind of map, like a roadmap. I know roadmap is like a much memed on kind of like concept in video games at the moment, but like for an MMO like WoW, it's like genuinely important, and I'm all for it. And I want that roadmap.
Can someone in chat go grab the clip from an hour ago where I said, "Hey Taliesin, do you think there's any hope that we hear about anything past 9.1?" and you said no?
Oh, no, wait. I mean, yeah, I think there's a chance that we will. I don't think we will. I think there's a chance we will, but there's going to be nothing on the level of, like in Legion, they went 3 patches ahead in BlizzCon.
Yes.
We were in 7.0. They revealed 7.1 and 7.2 and told us something about 7.3 as well. I don't think we're getting that. No. We're not getting an Argus moment, unless it's like an Arthas moment. Our Arthas moment could be your Argus moment. How do you feel about that? And then hopefully, at the end of 9.2, Arthas will appear in the sky, and Arthas will just be in the sky, in the skybox for the rest of the patch. Once you completed the raid, Arthas will be there, and like everyone on Reddit will be sharing their excellent photos of Arthas like in different zones in the sky, and we'll all miss Arthas when he's gone, when he's not in the sky anymore. And people will say, "Hey, do you remember Shadowlands? Do you remember when they just put Arthas in the sky?" And we'll be on this podcast, and I'll be like, "Yeah, here we are in Cosmo Disco War expansion, and what it needs its Arthas in the sky moment. It needs its Arthas."
In your mind.
But the problem with BFA didn't have an Arthas in the sky moment. You look back on BFA on Shadowlands, you're like, that was so cool when they just put Arthas in the sky. Wow, so good.
So in your mind, is he appearing in the sky like the naked Santa in Rick and Morty, or is it more like Mufasa, where he's gonna like be this big head in the clouds going, "Glad you could make it, Uther"?
I'm open to it.
You're open to either, whatever they think is fitting for the Shadowlands story. Naked
I'm not
Arthas
a game
in the sky with
designer.
the Santa
I'm
hat,
not a concept artist. I'm just an ideas man, and my idea is Arthas in the sky. And they're like, "Well, Tally, how do you want to make that happen?" I'm like, "I don't care how you make it happen. Just make it happen. Give me options. Put Arthas in the motherfucking sky. Boom.
Arthas in the Sky with Runes is my favorite Beatles song. That's just so you know.
You know that song's not really about Arthas. That's my favorite Beatles thing ever, is where they go, so that song about LSD, which is literally called LSD, and they're like, yeah, it's not about LSD. It's weird, that, isn't it? It's just they still say it's not about LSD to this day. Those dickheads hate the Beatles. It's like, it's literally called, don't. So Paul, that song, I know you didn't write it, but we can't ask John. That song, which is called LSD and is clearly using a lot of LSD imagery and is clearly a trip. Like, tell us about that. Oh, yeah, well, it's not actually about LSD. Shut up, Paul! This is why no one likes you.
I would like to point out that you didn't ask Ringo, so who do you really not like?
Ringo doesn't know what day it is. Come on. He doesn't even know there was a song called LSD.
Ah, jeez. And I feel now though, coming back to our email, because I have felt the desire to switch to what the hell is why can't I think of the Revendreth Covenant all of a sudden?
Venthyr.
Venthyr, thank you. I felt the pull to switch to Venthyr as someone who has been raiding as a damage warrior a lot, but I like the Night Fae, and I like my Ancient Aftershock. It's too fun.
Hey, Ancient Aftershock is legit, man.
It's such a rad ability.
But it is fun going to a different covenant. I've got to say, I haven't switched covenants on any of my characters, but like having characters in other covenants is super fun. And like it does change the way you experience the game. So it's totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you everyone for your emails. I think it's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Keep them coming. wowkillercast@gmail.com. We try to do one mailbag a month. So write in, especially post BlizzCon. Once BlizzCon's out, we want to know your thoughts. Ooh, so send those emails in, wowkillercast@gmail.com. That's going to bring us to the end of this episode. If you want more WoW Killer, you can get it over at amove.tv. That's where I post this podcast and every other one that I produce. We have a YouTube if you'd rather watch it in video form. Check out youtube.com/wowkiller. We also want to thank Andrew Allen for our intro and our outro music. That lovely, I think it's the Lion's Pride Inn is what the track is called. That piano rendition of that. Andrew Allen made that for us, and you can find his work over at andrewallenmusic.com. But before we go, Taliesin, if folks are somehow unaware of all of the wonderful YouTube World of Warcraft content in your stream that you're putting out into the world, where can everyone find you?
You can find us on YouTube at Taliesin and Evitel. And you can find us on Twitter, Taliesin and Evitel. You can find us on Twitch, Taliesin and Evitel. You might be thinking, who's Evitel? Who's that person? That's my wife, who's much better than me at everything. And she's on the streams now. We've got a new morning show called The Grind, or Rise and Grind, is what I want to call it. But no one else likes that. But that's what I'm going to call it. And everyone else can call it The Grind. It's our morning kind of WoW news show. Me and Evie.
That is a great name.
Not just me. Evie's there as well.
Did you see the email I sent over? If you didn't, I'm going to read it now. Damwise wrote in and suggested that when we do have Evitel on the show instead of you, that we should not address the fact that there was any change at all and just carry the show as normal. Yep.
Don't even mention it. Don't even flinch. Yeah, that's how you get away with stuff like that. Absolutely.
Oh man, it made me giggle so hard. So when that does happen, that may be exactly how we play it.
I look forward to it.
Folks, go check out Taliesin's awesome other content. As I already mentioned, amove.tv is where you can find the other podcasts that I produce. Gonna do a new Angry Chicken tonight. As we are on the precipice of a new standard year in Hearthstone and the new expansion that will kick that off. And if you want to hear us talk about how Blizzard is clearly trying to kill Heroes of the Storm again, go listen to Into the Nexus, because there ain't jack at BlizzCon this year for that game. Nothing at all. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of WoW Killer. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. So we'll see you on the other side of BlizzCon. But until then, good luck and have fun.